This is the Code to Cash podcast.
I'm curious about, when you're just evaluating. So, a lot of this pricing discussion is more downstream, right? When your product is working, people want it. It's really after you have established demand. I'm curious, what was your journey about even establishing demand in the first place? You've been at this I was checking your LinkedIn, close to 4 to 5 years. What was the experience like of achieving product market fit, and what did it take to achieve it?
Pricing is what it takes.
Oh, really?
So we have a very special relationship with pricing because it only really started clicking when we started putting a price on something. Because then it's a real decision to make. Early doors, when we're trying to establish demand, we were in a very weird space where there was a lot of demand for what we're doing. Right? Like literally we couldn't not get into any call, and we just had conversations after conversations with GTM leaders about their data problems and everything.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
We were excited. However, we kind of spent maybe 4 or 5 months at the start where we're a bit stuck in the sort of like the mid to late funnel of the go to market, where there was some interest but not enough interest. And so the kind of first bit of product market fit we found was when we put a price on it. So we were like, number one, are you going to pay for this? Number two, how much are you going to pay for this? And number three, it's like, how do you justify this? And it was really a step change of interest when we asked, will you pay for this? Because people then separated themselves into heck yeah and hell no. Right?
Interesting.
And I think this is really what kind of saved us in the early doors, where I think a lot of product makers do this, right? Like you have a product in mind, you solve your problem, it's nice to build, you're like making something of your own, it's great. And you kind of put it out there and you're like, oh, I think for people who haven't done it, the road from 1-0 to the first customer is incredibly scary. Like you just have no idea how it's going to work. Whereas I think if you kind of think about pricing up front and you're like, okay, I need to charge something for this, and this is the price I need to charge, then you get a really you get real feedback from the market, and you can say, like, people can now have a way to decide. And I think a lot of people are hesitant to put down a pricing because they feel like pricing is the least important thing for them, because like their whole thing is like, I need a first customer. And they're worried that by putting a price tag on it, it reduces the chance of it getting purchased. But actually what people need, it's all the information to decide, because like whether you are explicit about your decision-making process or you're implicit about it, you have a decision-making process, you have a decision criteria, and pricing is a big one, right? Like you can produce like a magical drug, but if it's 400 million, nobody's gonna buy it, no matter like just physically you're impossible to buy it. So like in when it's early demand, like we had that problem where everything looked like demand, but nothing was demand. And pricing and putting a price on it, and I credit my co-founder Jack for this, asking people for money and asking people for a defined amount of money was what saved us.
Makes sense.
Right, so like that was the thing that separated real demand from interest.
Okay.
And then like throughout the kind of first few years, as we were trying to scale the business, pricing was so hard. Like getting demand was one thing, but you literally can kill your demand with bad pricing. And we used to price too high, we used to price too upfront, pricing didn't adapt to the market enough, we were distracted by certain signals, and I couldn't credit pricing enough to the growth that we've seen this year. Like, I mean, this, like the market is tough out there. Like the fact that we are growing as a company and our revenue is going up is quite rare. And it's all pricing. It's all because we changed pricing. Like the product is fundamentally the same.
Interesting.
Like, it got better, right? But then pricing enabled easier adoption. It enabled a better business case. It enabled actually more margins on our side. And that was the whole thing that clicked.